we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another special edition of the Data Services Office Hour. I am Chris Short, host with the most of Red Hat Live Streaming, and I'm joined by the one and only Michelle DiPalma this morning. Michelle, how are things up there in Canada today?
Fabulous.
Fabulous? Just
Yes,
fabulous.
just fabulous. The weather is beautiful. Everything's great. No, we're going to have a good show. So I'm excited. I got stuff to show you.
Awesome. I'm excited to see this because, as we all know, of the idiots in the room, I am the one that's the storage idiot. So, yes. I'm curious to see what's new in ODF 4.8, and you are going to show us, is what I hear.
Yes. So here, I'm going to share my screen. Hang on one second. All right. Can you see everything?
Yep. I see
right.
everything. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with access at redhat.com just so people see how I get to where I'm going. I'm not even logged in actually at this point. So let's go look at the release notes. Always a good place to start for what's new. And I'm not going to go over all of them because I kind of realized
no.
It's like, and people can read. People can read. You know,
people can read. Yes,
they can read. They don't read, but they can read.
Right.
Okay. So 4.8 release notes. I just wanted to point out a few things. I'm just going to new features. So if you go through this document and you look at what's bolded, you'll just get the gist of what it is that's new. I want to discuss briefly compact deployment general availability. I'll show you how it's done. Yeah,
yes.
No, compact's really cool actually. And it's easy. It won't take very long at all just to demonstrate, like to show you what I did. And then the one I'm going to...
and easy. Okay.
I did. I know, shocker, right? Like, the one I want to spend time on is the caching policy for object buckets. So if you don't mind, I'm going to spend the bulk of the show talking about and showing you refreshing MCG ideas, multi-cloud object gateway ideas, and then showing specifically how the caching policy gets used, because I actually think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, like
this is just fun stuff show. So
I've had a fun experience the past few weeks with just web caching in general, and it's really kind of opened my world to there is a lot of edge out there, right? Like trying to make the experience the same for somebody in South Africa as it is for somebody in San Francisco is challenging.
Yeah.
Right. So these caching policies are here to help you get data close to the edge, I feel like, right?
And they require a little thought, actually.
Yeah, some planning and classes of storage. Yeah.
And I'll show you the documentation. I'll go through it, and it's good because it's completely accurate. But I thought I could complement it by just having sort of okay, if you take the 10,000 foot view, this is why this is set up this way, and this is how you think about it, and then you can customize it for your deployment. So I think I did this last time. The volume encryption.
The volume encryption part. Yeah, you showed that off.
So there's more as we go down, and we can talk about maybe if someone's interested in some of the. I think there's replica 2. There's some other stuff going on. If we want to do that in a future show, but I think that these two, compact and caching, are going to take up our time today.
Okay.
And mostly caching. Okay.
So let me just say real quick, folks, for everybody out there watching, this is an office hour. So if you do have storage questions, ODF or OCS related storage questions, feel free to fire away. But we come with a topic prepared. This is what we're talking about now. That does not mean we talk about this the whole time. If you have a question and you need help with something, feel free to ask. So
I will do my best to answer it. There's a lot to there's a lot to ODF and a lot of different ways to configure it. So I am by no means the expert in all of them, but usually I can get someone to
find the answer. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I'm in the... So let me show you something. I wanted to show... So starting with compact. I have, this is when you go to install your configuration, it's actually right here in the document. Wait a second. Configuring a 3-node cluster. You're told exactly what it is you need to do. Pretty much you're modifying your install -config file, your YAML file, to do this. So I don't know how you, I always install on AWS because it's just what I have access to right now. And I will have a nice massive, I have my golden basic install config YAML. And in here, I will change stuff up according to what I'm doing. So this is my standard ODF base. If I know I'm going to deploy ODF because I have to do a demo, I need to try something out, this is what I would typically deploy. We have other instances that we support, but I think I just put this one in ages ago and I stayed with it. So we have our workers. I'm going to have 3 of them. They're going to be M5 4x larges. And then I have the control plane down here. And that's pretty much it. I could probably make this smaller, maybe. I don't know. but this works, so I stuck with it. The change, just like it says here in the documentation, is we're going to take the platform to just brackets and the replicas to 0 under worker. So I'm reducing my worker nodes.
Okay.
So in addition, as you can imagine, I have to make sure that the masters are schedulable. Like if you look down lower, it'll take you through the directions of how to do that. Like, so it may not be sufficient to just eliminate your workers. You also have to make sure that you can schedule pods on your masters. So the pods, your master nodes are now going to become collapsed. They're going to have a role of master and worker. That's just OpenShift. Like if you're doing compact, that's how that's done. The one thing I wanted to mention to anyone here is, let's say you're doing Edge compact and you want ODF, you need to make sure that your masters are big enough for ODF.
Okay.
So I took a copy of the same file. I'll show you a different in a second. I reduced my workers, and all I did is I just made my masters bigger. But that was really the reason I mentioned this is for the first time I did it, I didn't do this because I forgot. I didn't have the 4x large, and I go in, I'm like, oh great, my cluster's up, it's compact, yay. And then I go to install ODF, and I got a little warning when I went to install it. And it was, and I'm like, what is this? It was a tech preview pop-up that said, you're installing with minimal resources. This is in tech preview. So I just want to be clear, minimal resources is not compact.
No. So let's pause for a second there.
Yeah.
I have seen a couple articles, a couple Slack messages, a couple, readmes out there that have talked about like OKD or even vanilla Kubernetes and like having really, really, really tiny masters and really kind of not much bigger worker nodes or control plane nodes and worker nodes. Sorry. Like folks, you have to think about what this cluster is doing the whole time, right? Yep. Like if you're throwing metrics at it, if you're throwing, any kind of operators at it, like it's got to be able to handle that workload. And whether they be infra nodes, control plane nodes, or worker nodes, they can't have 20 gig disks. They need more room than 20 gigs, folks.
Exactly.
I've seen several tutorials this week where it's like, oh yeah, all you need is 20 gigs of disk on your master. And I'm like, how can you even get IOPS for etcd out of that, right? Like, I don't understand. Like, folks, you've got to, etcd has to perform good and your cluster will perform good. But if you throw too much on your control plane and you don't give it enough resources, it will struggle.
Yes.
Very badly.
So some thought is required, even for compact, right? So think about what you're doing, think about how large these machines need to be, and so on. And I thought it was, at first I panicked when I saw the minimal resources, and then I remembered, I'm like, okay, no. With this setup I have now, where the masters are large enough so I can collapse the 2 roles of master and worker on them, and I go to install ODF, there are no warnings about anything, even though it's a compact cluster. Why? Because it actually has the resources it needs. They're just collapsed onto the master. So I just wanted to make that point. If you find yourself you install your compact cluster and then you go to install ODF and you see a warning about minimal resources, it means that the masters are not sized large enough.
Got it.
Right. And if it's this, maybe you can fix that later. Maybe you can go ahead and install it and then just expand capacity later. But if it's like CPU and stuff like that, then you may have to go back and resize.
If you're lacking CPU or memory resources, you're going to have a bad time.
Right. So here's the diff on the 2 of them. Yeah. So really straightforward from platform. It goes from AWS and 4x large and replicas 3. I take it down to nothing and 0. And the type from underneath the control plane has changed to something much larger. That's it. So what does that look like? So it's a
3-node cluster now, or it's still a 6-node cluster, right?
No. Well, no, it's a 3-node cluster with 2 roles.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually have 2 clusters up right now. I have my compact cluster because I wanted to show that to you. And I also have my regular cluster up. But I could do this all on a compact cluster. I just didn't want to complicate my life here. So hang on, I'm just going to run a top because to keep this, I'm having issues these days. All right. So this is what a 3-node cluster looks like, a compact cluster.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. M54XL.
That's it. And here are your roles and here are your pods, everything's scheduled. ODF is up on this. Just, I mean, I don't want to mess around with it too much. As you can see, I'm testing things out, but here stuff it's ready. It can do anything on 3 nodes.
Wow. Could you do, I mean, this is a personal question almost, I feel like, but could you do a compact ODF cluster on a larger OpenShift cluster? Like if I had like an 8-node OpenShift cluster happened to sit in my basement.
Quite a basement you got there. Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm kind of curious, can you do a compact install on a larger set of clusters, or do we have to have this mixed mode master worker?
So when you go to the part where you go to create the storage cluster, you get choices there, right? So you could decide to pick the smaller nodes in your setup. You actually do get some choices. So if you want to do minimal resources, though, it's still tech preview. Right. You can do it, but it's tech preview, and it's actually, I think it should be in the release doc as well, as further down it talks about tech preview, dev preview. So you can try it out. And also something else that's available in this release, but I wasn't going to do today, but we can do in a future show, is you can turn off different components. So if you want to run super small, you can say, no MCG, and I think no CFFS. Like there are certain components you can just say don't. When you go to create the storage cluster, you turn them off, and you're running with the minimal things you need to have RookSF run.
Nice. Okay.
You can, and in other cases, you can also turn off RookSF and just run MCG. So there's lots more flexibility coming, and I think it's probably driven by the edge cases, right, where you really need to choose, pick and choose what you want. So this is what a compact cluster looks like with OD. The difference from the ODF side is you don't even know. I don't think you would know if I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, and then if you say, you don't see it.
You don't see anything different. Yeah, it all looks the same to me. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So that was the compact thing. I'm sure there's more to talk about there, but that's pretty much my knowledge of compact. I haven't done more than that, but
just the fact that you can get OpenShift and ODF in 3 nodes, that's a big win for everybody, I feel like, right?
Good stuff. Yeah. And there's more about it here, delivering a 3-node architecture.
Yeah, I dropped those links in chat for everybody to see just in case. Oh, no problem.
Okay. All right. So the meat and potatoes of today, and I know it only gets a little bit here, but it's actually, I think it's pretty cool and it's a big deal. We should talk about it. All right. So caching policy for object buckets. So let's back up for a second here. Let me get rid of this one. So this link here takes you, where is it? That one takes you right to chapter 9 about caching policy for object buckets. So, but we have to back up because I'm sure no one remembers what they need to remember about MCG. Do you remember about data federation? It was a long time ago.
This was a long time ago.
It was a long. It might even be.
I'm gonna go. I'm actually pulling up the OpenShift YouTube page right now to see if I can go find the episode. But
yeah, it was a long time ago.
A while.
Okay.
I know that.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. I'm gonna close. This is my regular. Hang on, let me just close this so I don't confuse myself. Here we go. All right, so here's my regular. This is a normal cluster, right? Not compact. And I've installed OpenShift, container storage, everything's up to date. And I'm fresh, I'm new. I haven't done anything other than this. So what I wanted to talk about was the backing store, the namespace store, and bucket classes to complement what you're going to see in the documentation. So just a refresher for everyone. The multi-cloud object gateway is a gateway. It is not an object store itself. It's going to use other object stores and create virtualized buckets that achieve different goals. It sets policy on them and so on. So whether you're talking about the regular standard MCG bucket, which would be when you mirror between several buckets, or you tier across, you have like levels and you can mirror, you can spread, it does the deduplication and all that other stuff. That's one kind of standard MCG bucket. There's also namespace buckets, which is what we talked about in data federation, which are exactly what they sound like. So just like with database federation, you would have you have multiple buckets and you say, I want to read, I'm going to create a virtual bucket and I'm going to read from these buckets and I'm going to read and write to that one. But the buckets themselves may have information in them already. They can be accessed the way they've always been accessed. So, I mean, really namespace buckets are just like data federation for databases, right? So you federate across several. Yeah. So what there's a reason things get named the way they do. And I think it's just important to naming's hard. So in the case of MCG, because it's not an object store, it needs other stores. The standard bucket, it needs, so this is where this naming comes in. A backing store backs up a standard bucket in MCG. A namespace store backs up a namespace bucket in MCG. So the naming will start to make sense as we go through it, but it comes with a default one. We installed this one for you.
Cool.
And just like, as you can imagine with data federation or as well, when you go into your backing store, what are you going to need? Remember, MCG is a gateway. It's not an object store. So it needs what? It needs to know the provider and maybe some details about the provider. It's going to need credentials to connect. And it's really going to need what's the target bucket.
The target bucket, yeah.
So I can create another one. So this is the default one that comes with it, but I can create another one that has Azure as a provider.
Oh, nice.
And these are all, so when you do object bucket claims and stuff like that, you can have these different backing stores. So, but a store, whether it's backing or namespace, is always going to have provider, credentials, and a target bucket minimum.
And I
gotta
see,
know.
Looking at your screen, I see S3 compatible, which means you could just have a Minio instance pointing at a huge JBOD if you wanted, like the sky's the limit here. Yeah.
So going back to the name, multi-cloud. So if you're just setting up one store, you don't need all of this, right? You wouldn't do it this way, but that's not the point. The point is to have more than one and be the gateway to more than one. So I'm going to use the default backing store in this one, but I wanted to show you also under namespace stores, when we go to create them, they're the same. The information required for data federation is the same. The difference is in how it's used. So it just like in databases, if I'm setting up a federated table, I don't want to mess with the original table. That's not the point. I just want to view. I want to view into them. So as opposed to if I were setting up an actual table, I would be messing with it. So it's the same case here. When you have namespace stores, you're saying, are we going to have read into this? Great. Give me my credentials, give me my provider. The information you need is the same, but they're actually not going to write to it unless we say so. And that is set in policy. So I'll show you that. So the reason we have it's just to set up these different names. So I'll set one of these up for you now. Let's call it,
you've been tinkering.
I have. And actually what I should do, I realized my naming was not so fab. AWS, this is going to have a particular bucket. So I like to name it, not the standard. Let's do the DiPalma bucket. Okay.
Makes sense.
Just so you know. Yeah. So and think about it like you really
breadcrumbs are great, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I've already put the secret in as AWS secret.
Yeah, you would have had to get the other one, right? Yeah.
And then this one, I want my DiPalma bucket. In DiPalma bucket, there's already information, right? I have some images from a previous demo. Cool. So this is the case where I don't want MCG to go in and take over the whole bucket and all that. I just want to read what's in it, right? And I might have more than one of these. So I would
consume the bucket. Yes.
I want to consume the bucket, but I don't want to. Here I've got New World Daily stuff. This is another bucket. We'll add this one in as well. So that has to be. So as I do this, that was DiPalma bucket. Let's
secret the region.
Yep. I've got all this. I've got one for Azure. Hang on. Let's do.
Silly question.
Yep.
Maybe not silly. Why SSL disabled by default?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Cool.
I mean, it works for me, but
right. Like I'll dig into that because me personally, being the person that I am with the background that I have, I think all traffic should be encrypted over the internet, but that's just me. Might not be the case for everybody. But
so I was gonna let's just call this Azure bucket. I can't remember which one, but it'll pop up down here. Hang on a second. My blob. I select my secret that I already put in, and here it's 12.
Okay.
I just happen to remember that. So obviously name things properly. I'm not here. Azure bucket 12. Let's do that. So I know that. There we go. So you know where it's coming from. I know the bucket it is. I'm all organized in my virtual world here. So if I look here now, I'm under namespace stores. I've got 2. So these point directly to 2 buckets. It contains all the credentials and information I need to connect to those 2 buckets. They're just stores. These are the actual object stores that are going to be connected to. That's it for this part. We haven't done anything other than set it up. So in bucket class, hang on a second here. I'm going to have to hide here for a second. Okay. In bucket class, we get to start to see how we're going to separate between standard buckets and namespace buckets. So we're ignoring the default for now because we don't need that. Okay, so what's a bucket class? So here we go. This is like the meat of MCG,
nice.
For lack of a better word. So it is though. So standard buckets in MCG are kind of what we've discussed before, which were I'll show you one here. Every time you go into bucket class, you're going to do your general what category is it in, placement policy, and the resources you want. So let's just go with this one for a second. If I go into placement policy, and remember I selected standard, here's where I get to choose how much tiering do I want, what's going to happen in that tiering.
Okay.
So I can say spread. Great. Let's pretend I'm going to do a spread. And
Okay.
after that, it makes me select the resources. Right now, for a standard bucket, I only have one default backing store. I can go add more.
Sure.
Like we can go back and add more. I can do that. Look, it even has it here. Create a backing store.
And oh, wow. You can just spin one up right there. Smart UI. I love our team.
See if I can remember. I don't know. Backing store. Something.
Backing store stream. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, and then we use the same secret as before because I'm going to, and then I'll choose a different bucket. Let's do, I don't know.
I saw bucket 8 and 7 in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Where am I? Some other bucket. Oops, sorry. I need to go back.
Some other bucket.
Obviously, bucket 7. Yeah, bucket 7. Oh, wait. Yeah. Okay, let's do 7. If I have trouble, we'll know. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll know real quick.
We'll know. Okay, so I've created another backing store. So see how they pop up here, and I can choose them. So I can say between backing store and DiPalma and the default backing store, do a spread. I can go back and say no, do a mirror, whatever we want to do. But I select them, and life goes on. So I'm not actually going to do it.
Just for folks that are not up to speed, difference between spread and mirror.
Okay, so let's go back here to placement policy. All right, so there actually are some really nice demos about the details of how MCG does spreading and mirroring and deduplication and all that kind of cool stuff using crush algorithms or whatever. Like they get into it much.
So it's like deep. Okay, got it.
Yeah, right.
But just at a high level, spread places the data everywhere.
Spreads it out
so that you can recreate it no matter what failure domains you're trying to hit.
Correct, with all kinds of like error checking and so on and so on. Yeah. And mirror is just that. A mirror would be a mirror. So you could, I mean, we tend to think of mirror as just 2, but if you have 5 backing stores and you include them, you can do that too. And also your second tier can be something else. You don't have to keep them the same. You can have a spread and a mirror. You can be as paranoid as you need to be. I think of it. I'm like, how paranoid are you? So that's the idea here. So in this case, everything with MCG is encrypted in transit, but everything written out is encrypted as well. So if when I go to create this, if I went to look at it just with like through AWS and look at it, I wouldn't be able to read it because it's all encrypted.
Got it. Okay, so Rapscallion Reef says in chat, it sounds like spread is RAID 0, where mirror is RAID 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think there's more, and actually we can do.
And there's there's error checking and blocking and all that fun. Yeah, I get.
There is,
I mean,
and there's like
but yeah.
I would like to get someone, maybe the developers who work on it, to actually speak to it because I'm not going to do it justice. Like there's more going on, but I'm not going to be able to like really explain it well. So we should.
So so if you're doing spread and mirror, you're basically doing kind of like a RAID 10 scenario, essentially, like you're striping and you're mirroring and data replications everywhere. Yeah, cool.
And
okay.
So remember, this is this kind of bucket in MCG is often used when the requirement policies of the business policy of a company requires encryption in transit and at rest. Just so you know, this is where it typically comes up, where it's like, oh, it's object and it's got to be, these are our requirements. So okay, we'll just do it like this. Any other questions about this? Because I want to
no. But that was a great one, Rapscallion. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that this is like standard kind of spread mirroring, as he was saying. We choose our resources here. We can have as many as we want to configure. Each one of them ends up in a bucket, right? And so on. But
there is a question. Sorry.
Oh, so go ahead.
What's the difference between spreading then mirroring versus mirroring and then spreading? Is it just an order of operations thing, or is it?
I believe it is, but so I've had the same question. I'm like, well, what are the scenarios where I want to do that? That is a question I have not answered yet. Like what, right? Like
no, like when do I spread and mirror versus mirror then spreading? That is a good question.
Right. So I don't have an answer for you because I have the same question, and I will chase it down because I should know that.
Great question.
That was my thought.
Great, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so while standard bucket classes are fresh in your mind, I want to compare them to namespaces because this is not what you just saw, even though placement policy and resources and the review all look the same. So in the case of namespaces, we have data in the buckets already, and we have to go and configure a bunch of interesting things about this. This is federation. So if you look at placement policy for a namespace bucket, you get a few choices. So we're choosing a policy here, and let's go through them. The new one in the UI is cache namespace store, which we'll end with that. But so it's cool. So a single namespace store. So there are different scenarios where you would choose different ones. So the one I normally work with is this one, the multi namespace store. So, but there could be cases where single might be very useful to you. So again, MCG is not an object store. It's going to be a gateway to an object store. So if I have a single namespace store, it's going to be, I haven't created any. I choose one of, did I actually? I guess I did.
Well, you have
I choose one bucket.
Yeah.
But these are these are namespace stores. And we did create them.
We did.
So I'm not going to, so these have data in them.
Right.
This one was in Azure. This one's in DiPalma. I'm not going to necessarily write to them. We have to see if I'm in single. So here we go next. Okay. So in this particular case, I didn't name it yet. I have to go back. I have to give it a name. I have to shame on me. So let's call it bucket class single. Right. And we go next. I choose it's a single namespace store. I'm the back ending. I shouldn't use the word back because it's used under source. The namespace store that's going to be used, we have chosen as AWS DiPalma bucket, which when we look here, we can see has stuff in it.
Yep.
Okay, just so we're clear. And then, but notice I don't get a choice of many. That would be the multi namespace bucket. So here we go. So,
you can't select multiples. You can only do one.
Select.
Got it.
So what? Here we go. So I just created this one. It's available if I want to make an object bucket claim on it. It's all there. Remember, I'm creating this bucket class for it. So this could be, I happen to do one in AWS, but we can do one in Azure. So you can create, this is when you have a case where you have some bucket somewhere that's got to be read-only or excuse me, you want to be able to read the existing data from it, right? You and you're going to write to it as well. So you're just dealing with one. There are cases where you may just want to have this kind of federation with one. I don't typically use them. I typically do multi, or now I'm going to do caching stuff, but there could be situations where that is, if you think in terms of federation, you want to be able to offer all of that. So that was single, multi, but how did I name them? Multi bucket class.
You did,
I think I did
B
bucket
class.
B, thank you.
Yeah.
So multi, let's do this one. Okay, so I'm going to choose multi. And now I get to choose more than one. So I can do this.
Nice.
Right. And this is kind of like straight up federation, what we were doing before. So I've chosen where I'm going to read from, which could be many. Yeah. And now I'm going to choose which one I'm going to write to. So I can, doesn't matter.
Very cool.
Okay. And then we review it and we go off. So this is a very simple case, obviously, but
I could totally see regional areas, right? Like I used to work at a newspaper company and we would get photos from people all the time. If I set up FTP servers for these photographers, or SFTP servers back then, across the globe that tied to a bucket, I could just read in all the stuff into my, CMS and just be like, all right, optimize images and store, locally so it can get uploaded to our CDN. Done. That would be brilliant.
That would be, so hang on, let's see if I mess up my AWS creds. No, not my Azure creds.
Oh, your Azure creds.
Yeah, see, the other ones for AWS are right there. So I bet you I did. So let's go take a look. B class multi, and it's a bucket class. Hang on a second. I'm sure I messed up. Okay, so I'm on the right place and my projects. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Okay. B class multi. Let's see, why is it having trouble? Ooh, my Azure bucket 12 is not yet ready. Maybe
temporary error, status false, temporary error.
That's me. Like it means I did not enter something properly. Like that's probably what it is. Yeah. All right. So can I go to my portal and
do you actually want to do this on screen? Do you want to turn your screen off for a second?
I might actually be in there already, but hang on, I'm gonna stop sharing. Let me go check it. I will go check it. See,
I don't want you sharing creds on air. So
you're totally good. The other thing, hang on a second. I'm stopping my share. Give me 2 seconds to just make sure I did the right thing. I probably made it up and I'm not actually in a bucket that exists or something like that. All right, I have to sign in 8, 9, 10. Probably, yeah. Like it's
Yeah.
always, the process works fine. It's always like it's me. That's what I have learned.
Storage is hard. I mean, let's be honest here. It's not trivial. That's why there's a whole series on the channel about it, right? Like
the whole series, MCG bucket 12. Okay, so let me go in and modify this. I should probably be able to share now. Hang on, I have to find you again. Here you are. Okay, I'll put you up there. Did I call? Do you see it here? Okay, Azure Bucket 12. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, I see your screen. Yeah.
Peering at it. All right, so that Azure Bucket Files is the right resource. So I have to go back to my namespace store and look at this one. Let's go modify it.
Creating still. So that's
yeah, no, it should have been like bam. It should be good. MCG Bucket 12. I bet you my credits, my secret
status. Is scroll down for status message there.
See?
Account key does not exist.
Yeah. All right, I have to go off screen and fix it so you guys can see my
cool
stuff. Give me a second. Okay.
Do what you got.
Privacy, please. Privacy, please.
Mm-hmm.
hang on. This is my Azure secret, right? Okay. Account key, account name. Let's see what I did wrong here.
So while you're doing that, ignore me for a second. You do you. Okay. You could even mute me if you wanted. So folks, coming up later on the channel today, we have a bunch of afternoon shows, for me at least, afternoon. At 2, we'll be sitting down with Wei Ling Dang. He's the co-founder of StackRox. And so this is at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. It'll be on all the YouTubes for you to watch later if you're in Europe. I'm sorry, it doesn't align with your time zone, but you can watch it on demand on YouTube. But we're going to talk about like a lot. We're going to cover the gamut of, how StackRox was created all the way over to, what Wei is doing now inside the organization with ACS and all the fun stuff we're doing there. And then after that, immediately after that, we're going to be revisiting RBAC on the GitOps Guide to the Galaxy. So RBAC is hard, and I always encourage you to go and watch RBAC videos because that's where you're going to run into your like, oh no, massive security hole, whoops, because I didn't understand this one thing right. And so we're going to revisit a previous episode and kind of continue on that. Meanwhile, back here on the Data Services Office Hour, we are ready to go.
Yes.
So phase ready. Done.
I'm ready. So just so you know, the secret I created for Azure was I had the field names that you use for AWS. So the error we had actually says account key, account name, which is correct for Azure. So this is now ready. Everything about it is ready. So if we go in here, we can scroll down. Yep. We can scroll down.
Yeah, look, it just finished everything. Done.
Yep. Everything's happy. So back to reality.
All right.
Okay, so at this point, we're all set up. So so the final ones, we've got a single, we've got a multi.
A multi,
and this is a standard.
The
this
default.
Is the norm, a default, which is not federated at all. So let's go back into namespace. This is going to be cache. There we go.
Okay.
Next. All right.
Cache namespace store.
This is what's really, really new. So this is also why I wanted to build
will serve data from a large raw data out of a local caching tiering.
Okay, so
that needs some English work.
It needs some explanation. Let's point to the point. So you would use this kind of MCG federated bucket in the following scenarios. You have far away, you have a massive amount of object data in some bucket.
Yeah, I'm on the west coast of the US, but I've got to keep all my EU data way over yonder. Yeah.
And you want to do caching near MCG, near where the gateway is actually running.
Multiple clusters, is that kind of thing. Yeah. Regional clusters. Yeah.
Yep. And you want to be able to control where that caching goes.
Yes.
So that would be, I imagine, so in my mind, I always think of it like, okay, let's say you've got some special, fast storage. You create a backing store on it, local to MCG, where you're running. Maybe it's compact, right? You can see a scenario where you've got a little compact.
I could totally see a compact data store in each major region or whatever. Yeah.
And maybe you're not using that for the rest of your ODF install, but for this particular case where you need to cache and it needs to be super fast, you want that to be here. Now, we only use the default in this demo, but you can imagine you can have many backing stores, and that's for regular, normal MCG buckets. But here we're going to use a regular, normal MCG bucket as our local cache. Nice. We're going to fetch from afar and then do it. So got it. Yeah. Yes. So it's about control. Like this gives you the control.
This is the control. Yeah.
Yeah. So over here, remember, so hub namespace store. What's my far away bucket? I only get to choose one in this case. Because it's going to be some large set of data in one area that I want to bring closer. Let's see if our Azure bucket works. It should. And then, so I set that. I set what is my namespace store far away, and where am I going to write to it locally? Well, I think I created this one with AWS, but I can use my default as well. So one is a namespace store, but my local cache is a backing store.
Right.
That
makes sense. No, that makes sense. But like that default backing store, what is it using?
AWS. In this case, it's AWS.
In this case, it's AWS? Okay.
Yeah, so the default, and someone should correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the default backing store for MCG will depend on where you deploy. So if you're on-prem, it will actually use Ceph or Rook-Ceph RGW. If you're on VMware, yeah, it'll do that as well. But if you have a deployment in Azure, it will be there. If you're going to be in AWS, it just defaults to an AWS store, and it creates the bucket, talks to it and everything. But you have control now. It doesn't have to be that if you don't want it to be. So I see this as very useful for hybrid cloud, right? You're on-prem, you got data far away, either, I don't know, on some other part of the planet. You need to have a view into it. You don't need all of it. You want to cache some of it locally, but you want to ensure that the cache you're using is nice and fast. And you want MCG to do it for you. So there you go. So you get to set your time to live, right? Which you would normally do in the cache. And then voila, you create it. But the thing that's the nuance here is that the hub, the far away part, is federated. So it has to be a namespace store. The cache, which is close to the gateway, has to be a backing store. It has to be a normal backing store for MCG. So I wasn't sure if that was entirely clear to everybody looking at it. You might be like, why do I have to do this here? So I just wanted to make sure that's the mindset. And now you can think of different scenarios where you would use it, right?
This is one of those scenarios where it's like, I kind of want a picture, right? Like, like I feel like we could have like flashcards almost of read many, right? Like,
and which scenario goes with, like, why would you use,
why would I use XYZ kind of thing? Yeah.
Correct. You're right. So, and just to complete this, if I go into object bucket claims and I make stuff, I can do, let's do single, just to stay with naming it, bucket single, right? And I can choose something here. I go into, that's my storage class, and then I choose for my bucket class which one I want. So you see how so the object bucket claim chooses a storage class, which has to be Nuba, and then inside of after that, I get to choose the bucket class I want. If I choose single, it's going to use exactly what we configured, which I have to go back and look because I don't remember. But there, done. So if we go here, does it give the information here? No, this is all related to, we'd have to actually go into it. So that was single. I've just created a few. Questions?
No questions yet.
So here we go. Here comes the next one. We'll do a multi.
Nice.
Yeah, just to show you, and then we can go. So here you start to see them. Look, and it tells you the secret it's using. So you can see how important your naming is going to get, right? So that you should be able to look at this at a glance and say, oh, I know what you're doing here, kind of stuff. So hang on a second. Let's just do the last one. Okay. Something more useful than bucket cache. I hope people use. And off we go. So the caching part is the new feature. No, sorry, I said that wrong. Having the cache available to you in this bucket class UI is the new feature. There was caching before, but it wasn't quite like this.
You couldn't necessarily configure it as granularly as you could. Yeah.
Right. So I think what would be, and I'll probably follow up with this, is some diagrams explaining, like, when you have the following scenario, this is where you would use, single namespace bucket and so on. But it's sort of, it has some nuance to it. And I think for the caching one, I mean, I could see that being really useful in edge cases. Right? You got a little tiny little cluster going, you got something fast. That was my thought. I was like, ooh, that's useful on edge. And then you're doing your work there, right at the edge, right? You're bringing in the data you need, you have a hot cache, you work with it, and then you write it back. So, so those are the big what's new. Any compact questions? I don't know. Did we cover everything we wanted to cover in compact? I think we did. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Folks out there, if you have questions about compact, let us know. I feel like we did a pretty good job there.
Okay. And then, so just everything I did is in the documentation. A lot of it, you can do all of this from the CLI. It just, I wanted to show off the UI, and it also looks better during demo. So the chapter I'm in here is managing hybrid and multi-cloud resources for those who are interested, if you want to see more about all about MCG, how we do all of the different parts and what have you. So, but the one that's coming out of release notes is chapter 9, caching policy for object buckets. But again, if you're looking into it and you don't understand it, go back and look at the supporting documentation for how to use MCG, because once you have that in your head, I think it all kind of flows from there. So there we go. We can create more stuff. We can look at some of the other stuff in the release notes if you like.
I mean, what else is in here? I'm curious.
There's a ton of stuff in it. There's so much, like it's I mean, that's so new features. Okay, so we did compact, we've done caching policy, we've already done persistent volume encryption, thick provision stuff. Okay, you have to talk to Chris Blum about that. He's a VMware guy.
Well, thick provision for VMware is a whole thing. Yeah,
it's a whole thing. So right. So and I would like to do some of the other things here, like for IBM Power Systems, but I right now I don't have access to those kind of labs. So maybe in the future we can do some stuff on that. But let's see, air gap stuff, blah blah blah. Enhancements. We've got some new alerts that come out. I would like to do replica 2 at some point. For you,
what is replica 2?
Fun. It's in here somewhere. Hang on.
You can do a find, I bet.
But I also want to see. Hang on 1 second. Compression, decompression, data delete. Yeah. So we did this too. Added ability to create namespace bucket using the user interface. Tech previews are always interesting. Multis, it's there. That would be an entire show and a half. I think.
Well, I mean, we should do a Malta show, to be honest with you. Not necessarily just you, but I could bring in the expert from my team on Maltas, and we could do
that. Would be nice.
A collab show. That would be cool.
We could do a collab show, and then if they do the Maltas part, then we should be able to set up so that all of the storage talking goes over this segregated network. So that would be awesome, actually. That would be, and I think, and there are already customers who do that and there are a bunch of others who want to do it and know they have to do it because of that stuff. So what else is going on? I think there was a component. I was looking for the I know it's here, flexibility. So this is going to be really interesting also for Edge, right? This idea here that you can turn things on and off, turn off RDW or turn it on and so on. I would like to test that out on it. We could do like a super duper minimal ODF on a super tiny Edge cluster and see how well that works. Run some performance testing. We could do that on your cluster.
That's true, we could.
Maybe we could do it, right? Like, see how small can we get and still have what we consider reasonable performance and just turn off pieces you don't need.
I would
Something
love
to think
that.
about.
Yeah, that'd be a cool show.
Yeah,
but I would want to do some setup first, obviously. I mean, we could pull up my cluster right now if you want and walk through it, but we only have 15 minutes.
I know. So when I was thinking about what else am I going to show? I'm like, some of these things are really big. So, and
it's fine, right? Yeah. If we end early, that's okay. Just as long as we answer people's questions and share more later, we're fine.
All right.
So flexibility and sizing, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. And being able to really fine tune what you want on your Edge cluster is really important. So, and then, so I always think of small Edge cluster, very, very minimal footprint for ODF. And then you can even you have MCG and you're just caching locally what you need on something very fast, right? And you do your work there and then you send it back or something like that. It's just more flexibility is better. So that's kind of what I have, Chris.
That's great. No, this was very informative. I mean, we got questions. We got, some
got
curiosity.
questions.
We realize that we need to kind of, maybe have 6 or 7 slides that say, hey, this is when you would want to do these certain scenarios,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think that would make for a great blog
Okay.
post, a great live stream, a great everything, right? Like,
Well, I could do
you
the
could write the
blog.
blog post and we could
I'll
just
do the
go
blog.
over it on air potentially,
Yeah.
and kind of
Okay.
demonstrate and show off how to build the various things in the blog post. That'd be kind of cool.
We could also do a more in-depth explanation of how spread and mirroring is done inside of MCG. It's been done before. We could do that. We could get someone who wrote it. Come on and talk about it. That would be fun. And then maybe we can also talk about caching and what's going on there as well, like how that's all being managed internally. That would be interesting to have someone go through. So I'm into it. Cool.
Awesome.
Right. Any new questions? Anyone?
No.
We didn't come up with a poll.
No, but I do need to give you access to the thing that can give you polling. So we can do polls
I always
later.
have questions.
I think actually, yeah, you might already have it, but I feel like I've shared that with you before. But anyways, maybe I didn't. I've shared a lot lately, just trying not to be a single point of failure. So we'll see. But yeah, let's definitely talk for a few minutes after. And folks, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at Chris Short on Twitter. My DMs are open, short@redhat.com. My email is open. And I can get any kind of question you need answered. Trust me, I have ways. I ask nicely. That's the way.
That's way. Right? Works for me. Ask nicely.
Right. All right. So thank you very much, Michelle. This was great. I'm glad we went over all this stuff because like the tiering, that fascinates me, right? Like bringing data closer to people in compact clusters based off what region or, geography or, data center they're in. Yeah, that's going to change some folks' world and that'll be awesome. So thank you very much for showing us that.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for coming and have a great day. If I don't see you again later today, stay safe out there, folks.